Okay, so good afternoon. Thank you for coming to our session today. We have a wonderful panelists set up here for the teaming strategy session. So, being behind the scenes, I was helping set up a lot of questions. This is a topic that we came up with and thought was really important to show what subs are looking for, how to give each other what we all need, and we're looking forward to form these strong partnerships. So with that, our panelists today are going to go that end of the table to here. We've got Darin Blang. He's a PE with Kapur Associates, Senior Vice President, located in their Matheson office. With over 31 years in the transportation industry, Darin's worked for 3 engineering firms, all of which were DBEs or MBEs, and that were starting new offices in Matheson. And then we've got Todd Matheson. He is currently the transportation group manager for Oneida Engineering Service Solutions, a DBE consulting firm owned by the Oneida Nation. Todd is a professional engineer in Wisconsin with more than 30 years of experience in transportation industry with WisDOT, contractor, and 2 consultants. We also have Marissa Modesto with Singh and Associates. She's the Chief Strategy Officer. She guides Singh's strategic direction, working side by side with the executive team, while also developing, maintaining client relationships, proposal strategy, and Singh's corporate marketing. So, well, thank you for your time today. There was a lot of time that went in behind the scenes as well, so we really. So the format's going to be informal. We're going to go around the table and ask questions and your feedback and input. I do ask that you guys silence your phones during this time. With that, let's get started. So, first question. What were some of the successful things? Okay, what were some of the successful things that your firm has done in finding teaming members or partners to join you as you pursue WisDOT projects or other proposals? Marissa, you want to take it? Yeah. Okay, hold on.
I can just talk loud. Can you hear me?
You know that.
Thanks, Matt.
Hello. So Singh Associates is a small and growing minority women DBE. I would say that the best way to find partners for working with Wisconsin DOT is #1 to attend. Anywhere where you can get in front of DOT staff and better, anywhere where you can get to meet the private consultants. Singh has been very lucky and successful with mentor protege relationship with working. I would highly recommend looking into the mentor protege program if you're looking to take the next step in your business. I know that they have a table here. So if you are interested in the mentor protege program, definitely go back into the room and stop by to find out more about the program. I would say that's probably the enough.
Thanks, Marissa. Yeah, a little bit about me. Sorry, Stan. Where I came, worked for a contractor early in my career, and then worked in the majority of my career with DOT and now the DBE consultant. But so as you hear me talk today, you'll hear maybe a little bit of the DOT side because I just have that ingrained in my brain, like maybe for some of the contractor stuff. But yeah, I kind of want to echo again the mentor protege program. We're working on joining one with our GE who's right here, and it's nice to be able to share information back and forth. You learn from each other certainly, and work through those things. Work through learning what they're good at, what they've done, what they've been successful in their as they're growing up, and things that make their career strong too. So when you're out there talking and networking with people, I kind of think about when you're coaching a little league team, for example, you try to give those players and kids, kind of 3 positive things and then 1 challenge. And when I talk to potential networking partners, I like to hear what challenges they have. I like to hear, areas where they're strong, areas where they're maybe weak or maybe need help. And then look at what areas maybe our firm has, where we can fill in some gaps or help other potential partners. So again, events like this or just being out and about in the community is probably a really good way to kind of make those connections. Sort of things.
Sure, I guess just wrapping up question one, I think everybody can probably hear me in the back, okay? Finding a mentor, I think is critical. Like Marissa mentioned, the mentor is a great way to form a relationship with a firm that can take you under their wing and teach you the way of doing things, how they want things done. I think I've been with that we're DBE firms, we had our best success when we formed really close relationships with one or two firms rather than trying to work with 30 different. And then lastly, it's not just WisDOT. Keep in mind, there's other avenues out there, other clients out there, such as DFD, Division of Facilities Development, which they manage basically all state-owned buildings. They have a lot of DBE and minority initiatives also, and that's a good client to see from also.
Like for observers.
Oh, okay.
So thank you. That's great. Good feedback. So what are some of the qualities that you guys look for when you're looking for a good partner?
I could start. You know, you look at kind of going back to, you're looking at hopefully a teaming partner that brings something, you know, to the table where you can work together on things. At times, there's kind of depends on the relationship a little bit when you're teaming with a larger. You know, treat them in like their customer, and certainly that's important. Finding out again where there are gaps that you have, where you can find a team partner that fills the gap that maybe allows you to take on projects that you normally could. You know, because sometimes it's really tough to get jobs, and if you can get out there, one or two more jobs and get yourself out there, that can be the one that can really be the difference in a given year that can make you, more profitable, more viable, that sort of thing. So looking for those opportunities, like Darin said, that you have a partner that you can grow with, that you can work together, that sometimes the relationship's not threatening because it just works out that you're maybe not in the same area, you're not identical, or you actually can. So.
I think communication and collaboration is something that we value in our partners. If we can't communicate openly and honestly, then it's not really. We're looking at is building good relationships. And I think actually, Todd, what you said earlier about being receptive to that, being three positive things and one challenge, you have to be open to that relationship and be able to communicate with your partner in order to gain for it to be productive. And then I would say something that we have been more mindful of as we've been growing is that there can be sometimes we can be treated like a community instead of when working with certain. And we've made a very specific decision that we're really that if you are looking for someone to need a percentage, but not have that open relationship and communication with us, that's just not that's not what we look for. So when we look for partners in communication and someone who's willing to treat us for the value that we bring.
So I guess as a follow-up to that question, based on what you guys said. So we know what qualities you're looking for, but what would make a sub or a client stand out at your, like what would be, like I want to go work with that firm. What would it be, the projects that they do, the awards that they win, or what is this?
Yeah.
I think there needs to be a good synergy between the type of work that a firm is doing, the way that they do their work, and the values that they have. Singh is a very values-driven firm, And the work that we do is tied very much to the core of who we are. And we want to work with firms who have the same values that we do, who approach their projects in a similar way, understanding that us, our customer is every uses the work that we do. So that's, I would say, people who are like-minded and approach their work the same way.
Yeah, I agree a little bit, Marissa, on that, and the other thing too is, you know, one thing being back in the consulting in the last year, is the different sizes of firms. Certainly, you know, there's people in this room that work for very large firms, and smaller firms like ours depend on those relationships with large firms to work on larger projects, right? And there's a lot of opportunity in larger projects. So, you know, I'd be up here not being honest with everybody in the room that, when you're a smaller firm working with bigger firms can be of great benefit. And I think, you know, that's one way that you can grow and hopefully get future work from that same firm, as we've talked about a lot here already. So.
Okay, thank you, that's good. Have you ever had any challenging experiences? I know Marissa, you kind of alluded to it a little bit. So it's not all gonna be roses. So if you've had a challenging experience or are willing to talk about it, do you mind telling us about it? And also, what is your vision for that forward?
I don't know that we've had any bad experiences working with DBE firms. I think some of the bigger challenges come when a firm might oversell their capabilities or their availability. So I guess I would caution you not to do that. Know your core services, know what you do well, and don't overpromise delivering on services that you've never done before. That's going to help you establish a better relationship with the firms you work with. The worst thing you can do is overpromise and not deliver. That's really going to ruin your reputation as a firm. So you want to make sure you can deliver with 100% confidence on whatever services you're advertising yourself for, and also staff availability. As you get busier and you're landing more and more work, you want to make sure you can deliver, because primes are counting on you to deliver a key part of their project. And you need to make sure you're delivering that high quality services and on time. And again, you can't be everything to everyone, right? You need to know your core services and try to over deliver on one or two services, and then grow into those other spin-off services. That's what I've seen as far as maybe where people struggle a little bit or firms struggle a little bit.
All right. Yeah, certainly, for some of us, especially if you're a smaller firm, like Darin said, you can get overcommitted in a hurry if you're not careful. And that's one of the scariest parts, right? As you maybe get that phone call that you think is that big break. And large firm could come to you and say, we need your help on something, and it might be, it just doesn't fit in your schedule. So saying hard is really difficult. And especially if you're not at the, you're not at the very top of your company and you have people you report to, trying to explain to the folks above you in the organization that there's times where you have to say, pass, and look for that future opportunity that's actually in. So.
I think, just want to reiterate, I think communicating with your partners is critical, because if that line of communication breaks down, you start to experience challenges. And then what I had spoken about earlier about being treated as a commodity sometimes as a DBE. I think that can be very challenging when the scope and the fee don't align. They have a specific number that they want to hit, and then the scope creep comes in, but they stay in the number. Or you're getting late notice because you're kind of further down on the schedule or the task list. So I think, those can be challenging situations that really have to be overcome with like open communication and collaboration. But from a DBE self-development perspective. It's you guys.
I agree. I think communication transparency is very important. As a small firm, you end up marketing, and you don't know which one of those is true. If you promise, and all of a sudden either all of them come true or none of them come true. So it's feast or famine, especially more prominent for small firms. As such, what should a small firm do that might be partnering with you where they're all of a sudden avalanche with work? Not on purpose, just that's what the should be.
Again, I think it comes back to communication, like Marissa said. Again, if you're working with one or two firms and you have a good relationship with them, you need to let them know and be honest with them. Let them know as soon as possible that, hey, we have a lot of work in the pipeline. We might be a little late on this deliverable. Is there any way we can move that back? Usually the communication, letting people know ahead of time, that gives them an opportunity to maybe pull in some of their own staff to help you with the work or provide additional resources so that they meet their deadline. So again, communication is critical.
We've had to reallocate on contracts. It's happened where we had a team so who did not have the capacity to perform a particular service, and we had to replace them with someone else. I would say if you're in a position where you have to maybe reallocate a contract because you can't perform, maybe come with a recommendation of someone who you know could do your scope of work. Again, it's all about communication because it does happen. And if you come to it openly and honestly, you're going to preserve the relationship. And that's really what our business is about.
Yeah, the other thing too, that I ran into it this last year that I thought maybe would never happen. It's something that I've talked about a little bit is, when you are a DBE firm, that communication with the firms you're partnering with is so important. And sometimes they've brought you in to fill a goal or to help them land the job, and you might have a little piece and it can be easy as they dive into the project and get rolling to kind of almost forget about you in a way. And so making sure you're kind of aware of what that project timeline is. Think in your own mind that if you're not getting that phone call, that, hey, and that can be on the construction side too, certainly, right? That happens sometimes. Seeing heads not back there. Or, they use you maybe in the bid and here, it's time that a certain aspect of the work is going on and your phone isn't ringing. And so keeping that positive communication and reaching out and making sure that you're getting included when the appropriate time is there and being again that good contractor where you're there and when they need you, you're there at the same time. So it's a two-way street. Certainly, but for sure that communication, because it will happen. I'm sure there's a lot of folks here that's happening.
I agree, that is critical. That's one of the things we do as a small firm is regularly check in on contracts that we know we're on, but they haven't started, because oftentimes schedules shift and it's not your fault, it's not their fault, it's the way things happen, or it gets reshuffled a little. So yeah, very important to stay in touch. Keep tabs on projects that you submitted on. Okay, shifting gears a little bit. So what type of networking events have you guys found to be successful in meeting new partners that you may not have known that were out there?
So I have a marketing background. Unlike the gentleman up here, I'm not a professional engineer. I come from the marketing and kind of the business side. So networking and marketing is my jam. So I would say you want to go where your clients are. So events like this, professional organizations. We have a lot of resources at our fingertips nowadays with LinkedIn and social media to see where our clients are and what events they're attending for those events. You want to be able to get in front of people multiple times. It takes seeing someone 3 to 5 times to start building that relationship where you can start moving into asking for the meeting to come in and explain your business. And look for those areas where you guys can work together. You have to be consistent, you have to go to the events, you need to see them multiple places. Anywhere, you know, if your ultimate owner client, like this DOT or, you know, DFD, you want to go where those, you know, those people are. Because they're busy and everyone's overwhelmed with the program that we have. So if you can catch them when they're already out at these events, that's thing. Yeah, we know her a lot.
Yeah, I don't have a marketing background, so I have to rely on others for that. Certainly, yeah, the networking, even stuff out of state, you might think that even a state that you may not think you're gonna move into in the next, 2 years and 3 years. But still, you almost gotta get out ahead, right? And seeing somebody once sometimes is enough, seeing them multiple times. Building that relationship and almost like a muscle memory in your mind of seeing that person and putting that together. So yeah, those things are kind of important. And maybe I'm gonna take a little different spin on when you're meeting with clients to some degree. And when I worked at DOT, I'll just tell you one of the things that I really struggled with at times is when firms would come in and talk to me and talk about it's good. Sometimes they don't even talk about their firm, they just talk about the challenges that they had. I need work, which is certainly important, right? And understand that having that work is part of survival. But they may talk about their copier breaking down and trouble keeping employees and that sort of thing. And again, keeping that positive spin on it, trying to find out where your client, where their weaknesses are, maybe where they're struggling is. You want to hear from them. You want to have your client talking as much as you are with them, to hear what their challenges are and then to communicate where you can hopefully fit in to fit those challenges. Sometimes the other thing is sometimes you don't have the answer, right? But maybe you have someone in your world that you talk to network with and say, well, I know we don't do that service, but I know someone that does. And kind of making those connections can be helpful and helping out your client even if it doesn't hit your bottom. So.
Sure, just wrapping up this question, I guess specifically events that have worked well for I think other DBE firms. I think obviously you have this event in January of every year. There's the WTBA conference, which is geared more towards the construction industry. I think that's a great event, usually held in Matheson every year. You've got WTS as an organization and events. WTBA I mentioned, local chambers of commerce. Join your local chamber, get to know the businesses in the area and what they're looking for. I think the other thing I want to stress is it's great to go out and meet these people. As a prime firm, we meet a lot of DBE firms that want to work with us, but they tend to blend together after an event like this or the Transportation Improvement Conference, which is next week. That's an ACDC event that's held every year in the Dells here at this facility. That's geared towards design in the WisDOT industry. But make sure you're following up. You'll get business cards, you'll meet a lot of people, but it all blends together for us as primes and firms. So follow up. I like to call it stick to itiveness. My wife always argues with me and says that's not a word or a term, but have some stick to itiveness. I mean, follow up. Call those people, send an email, follow up with marketing brochures within a day or two of meeting at an event. I think that really helps build that relationship and show that you're hungry for the work.
So not just. Okay, what are some promotional materials, brochures, et cetera, that have been successful in maybe capturing your attention from your partner or capturing their attention from their perspective?
I think I'll start this one. As far as marketing, materials, brochures, how do you get your name out in front of people? Because obviously you have to have a website. I would highly recommend that. Something that you can refer people to. It doesn't have to be elaborate or fancy. It can be a simple, basic website where people can get information. Any marketing brochures need to be succinct and to the point. Try and keep them short. Highlight your services upfront. Let other firms know what your specialty services are, what you do as a firm. And then a little bit on clients you've worked with in the past or are seeking, and then your staff. Obviously, in the consulting industry, we provide staff, right? So you get hired based on the experience and knowledge of your staff typically. So make sure you have good resumes of your staff prepared and ready to go. And again, keep those short. Nobody wants to read a 5-6 page resume. Try and keep it to 1 page if possible, 2 at the most of it. I think another really good marketing ploy are referrals. If you can get testimonials or quotes from satisfied clients or customers or other firms that you've worked with, to me, that sells a firm very well, because I probably know that other firm or I know that client. And if you're doing good work with them, they're saying great things about your firm, then I probably want to work with you also.
It's very easy. I think it was said earlier. So it can't be everything to everyone. So spending some time kind of thinking through what your actual objectives and targets are, and then marketing to those targets. So the materials that you're providing should be concise, succinct, and detailed, but it also should be specific to what. So the market that you're looking at, its project type, a particular service, even if you offer multiple services, if you do research, you know your client needs, their pain point is, and what, but you really can test. Market yourself to those specific points and those specific objectives that you're looking to achieve. I think that it's more compelling and more effective that way.
Yeah, another maybe resource too, as you're working through this stuff, is, Madalena in the other room had her group stand up and using those DBE resources that DOT has and is really can be helpful. That they're really there for all of the DBE firms, and whether you're on either side, certainly. So reaching out to that group too, and I know they're very helpful in answering questions, helping you. If they don't know the answer, they'll get somebody who can give you the answer. So that's another spot, that another way to kind of help yourself as you're starting out, especially.
So just wrapping up that question about marketing. I guess not only the materials and brochures, that's important, but again, getting back to what I think is probably the most important thing in the world is the relationships. I think in the real estate industry, there's a saying, nobody likes to be sold, but everyone likes to shop with a friend. So I guess, what is that saying? I guess it's saying, develop those relationships, develop friendships with your prospective clients and firms you want to work with, because in the end, we want to work with people we like, people that are easy to get along with, and people that are our friends. I think that's important. You can't underestimate the importance of relationships and getting to know people and being genuine and asking about their personal life or their family or how's the business going, things like that. And developing those relationships really takes it to the next level versus just getting in there and hard selling your company. So I really think it's important, again, to establish really good relationships with 1, 2, 3 key firms that you want to work with, rather than trying to be everything to everybody.
Maybe one last
Sure.
last thing, and maybe it speaks to today, where we're at today, where resources are so constrained, or can be constrained depending on where you're at. One of the strategies that we've been doing more and more, I don't know, I think it's maybe a sign of the time, is we've been doing more to try to, when there's a resource that we have that somebody that it's somebody's, whether it's another consulting firm or it's DOT, A lot of times this is crazy, but we're actually providing the resume and the background information, but we're also providing a headshot, and it's almost like, because it makes that person seem real. Or it makes it seem like you really have that resource, this is our resource, and it's real, it's not, it's more than a resume, it's a person that can help in that professional services that you're trying to get, so I don't know if it's just a trend nowadays or what, but that's one of the strategies I think that we use that kind of put a face with the name and it's a real person, real resource that you're gonna be working with, so.
I agree. To echo what Darin said, I have always said, people say it's business, it's not personal, but I'd say it's the opposite. That it's personal because it's that personal relationship that they're gonna have. Okay, so we alluded to websites as one of the promotional materials. One thing to note, the DBE office does provide support in developing your website to firms. So keep that in mind, reach out to the OBEC office, talk to Rosalind, she was just in here, we just missed her. But yeah, she can set you up with that coordination, I believe, right like that, Marissa is able to help you, she's doing a session at the end of the day today. Catch that, talk to her, great resources at your fingertips. And what I always say about those services, if you're not using them, your competition is, and that's just gonna give them the head job, so hey, get rid of their them. Okay, so speaking of websites, do you have a website? Well, I think we all do. That's a good question. But what do you put on there that you feel is important for potential partners? Yeah, go ahead.
We do have a website. It's a challenge to keep it as up to date as I want to. I think website is one of those things that it's just constant. And with the other demands on our time, it's a challenge, but I do think having a good description of the services that you provide, the clients that you're providing those services to, testimonials, if you have testimonials, get those front and center on your website. And then as a DBE or certifications, who we're certified with, what certifications we hold, that somebody can find it really quickly. And then I would just say, websites are hard because it is, I don't want to talk about how many websites that are firm. It is a lot of work. It's more work than you think it's going to be. And I would highly recommend that if you're at the place in your business where you can hire outside consultants, help with your website, that is a great place to invest in business. Because if you're an owner operator and possibly be doing, project work, your time is really better spent elsewhere. And if you can make that investment with a third party consultant come and help with your website, I would recommend it. Because once you get into it, the hours that you spend on it just get crazy.
Yeah, one of the things with our website that I agree with Marissa, and the other piece that you might want to consider hiring to would be project photos and that sort of thing. Actually, the best to have someone actually do that because one of the things that I do at Oneida is I have a little contest with our construction folks and a photo contest, and on the off chance that one of them with their cell phone actually takes a great photo, so I throw up banner tickets and or lunch if you're not a banner fan, so I give them a choice. But that's one way I can try to coax our construction folks into taking photos from a marketing perspective. They're out there taking photos of, they're not a marketing perspective, they're documenting the construction. So that's one of the strategies I've tried. Whether I haven't gotten nothing I probably, well, I don't know, I should say that. Maybe if you have to put a few more. But still, it's one way to try to engage staff and have them think about it, that next step.
Last question that we have, and then we can open it up a little bit to questions from the audience. What are some things that your team partners have brought you that you haven't done yourself?
Yeah. I like that. I think I was up first, wasn't I? One of the things that I tried that we, and we kind of haven't really touched on it yet today and is kind of working with partners and especially when you're teaming with somebody and working through the quality control piece, certainly as a young firm or a firm that's smaller, making sure your deliverables are, when you're handing it off and it's leaving your office, and going to that other firm, that it's something that, is, if it's not a finished product, you have to communicate that, right? This is a 60% plan or whatever. It's 60%, this is what we got, this is what it doesn't have. That I think that's fairly standardly known, but your product and having your product be something that's decent. You've got some sort of quality control plan that you're following and procedures in your firm is really important. If you don't have that, trying to build that, you really need to have that.
I think we focus more on the design side, if there's actually construction involved or field work, make sure you have a really good health and safety plan in place. That's going to be critical. All primes certainly are going to want to see that from you, but see that you have something in place, because safety's got to be priority number one on a job site. Like that's really important. If you don't have something like that, work to get a health and safety plan in place for your field crews.
I guess for lessons learned, we've been lucky to have partnered with some larger firms who were willing to essentially do what we call their first mentor protege, where Singh was the prime and the firm. And it was informal, it was part of a official program, but it was based on a strong relationship that we had built with the firm, where they got to know us, they worked with us, they saw that we had quality deliverables, they saw that we had capable project managers, and they were willing to enter into that kind of reverse mentor agreement with us, where they were willing to share their institutional knowledge and provide some additional support so that we could learn by doing, right? The best way to learn is and so they let us kind of take that lead role, be the prime consultant, have the technical capabilities to do, we have the staff. And I would say from a lessons learned perspective, be creative with your partners. Once you have that trusting relationship, look for ways to create win-win situations where there's a mutually beneficial outcome for everyone.
Yeah. With that, I'm gonna open it up to questions out there. As we wait for a question, I'm gonna mention that there's a QR code that you can scan to do the survey on this session, so we really encourage you to give us feedback on it. And also, is it fair to say that you guys are accessible through the rest of the conference? If you have further questions, you guys are welcome to jump in on one, but I see a little.
Participated in the mentorship program was smaller and
Yeah, so I believe, so the question is, do we encourage the mentor projects and for the program to smaller start from starting, right? And certain, yeah, so from our firm's perspective, we are now entering into the work. We've been around a while. Our firm has been around, still a DBE firm, but yet I think we have enough experience where we can be a useful mentor to another firm. So we are mentor to another firm. But the ironic thing is the other firm that we're mentoring is similar size to us, which is kind of maybe a little bit unusual. But they are stronger in a different market than we are. So we're certainly we're thinking it's maybe a mentor program sort of a situation. So
Learn together.
We've been on both sides of the relationship. We've mentored firms and we've been, yeah, actually. And again, like in different markets, but really it plays to your strength. So the areas where we know that we have strength and we have the knowledge to share. You know, I'm very active with issues both in Illinois. Diversity is important and teaching is important and reaching back to bring people along with you is really important. So I would encourage anyone at whatever stage that you're at when you have the capability. So to definitely reach back and
And again, our firm Kapur graduated the DBE program many years ago. And so as a firm, we believe in that program. We honestly have gotten a lot of benefits from that. And so we really like to share that opportunity with other DBE firms. So through informal agreements, we do mentor and work with a lot of DBE firms. I think you'll see that of a lot of the firms that have graduated the program that take pride in that fact that they have their business and like to give back to the DBE community. So I'd encourage you to maybe reach out to those kind of firms that might have a soft spot for DBE firms and have experience there and have want to help.
I also want to say that it doesn't just have to be a business either. I think as leaders of firms, owners of firms, it's really important to find your like your own mentors. Totally informal. You can go out with and have dinner and drinks, and just talk about small business issues. And you don't even have to have the same perspective on how to deal with the issue. Just having a group of small business owners where you can kind of work your way through issues is really critical. And it's something that's really been helpful to for us to kind of make the next steps. So I would seek that out as well, just individually.
Yeah, as a small firm, we were really fortunate. We took us under their way at the very beginning, one of the first prototype programs that WisDOT had. And what happened with that was we got our first project, and as soon as we got our first project, all the other firms were like, oh, I guess we should pay attention to this small. And then also, those were even the sketch sheet of this under her wing, no smart, just an department, let's say. So great mentors out there, you just gotta find them. You have any questions?
Yeah, thanks. And great job moderating and thank you for all the good advice. You mentioned, when you're looking for a mentor, that they bring some sort of value. Can you talk to like the specific needs of each of your firms? What is a pain point that a mentor can maybe help?
Question, serious question.
I guess just to summarize the question, you're asking for advice on how do you go about partnering and how do you build synergy between the services your firm provides and what other firms might be seeking as far as services. I guess there's two ways of going about it. You can try to work with firms that don't offer the service that you provide. For instance, say your firm specializes in survey or traffic analysis, whatever your firm might specialize in. Try to find a firm that doesn't offer those services. Some of the larger firms out there don't have survey services, so maybe that's a good way to get in with a larger firm. The other way is to complement a firm. If you're doing just general design, find a firm that's really good at design or a firm that's really good at the service you do and try to learn from them in more of a mentor relationship. So those are kind of the two different ways you can go about that. But I think probably the best way is to find people that don't provide your niche service. If you're starting out as a smaller firm that have just one or two services, find a firm that's looking for that service and do a great job at that service and be the go-to provider of that service to the prime firm.
Good feedback. Yeah, that was very valid because when I first stepped out on I mean, am an ex-support employee. And Ramesh told me, go do what you know. That's stormwater management. So that's where I started, and that's been pretty good build on. Now, any other questions? There's one in the back of the deck. Yeah.
If you're a DBE company and how, when you have something to offer a prime contractor, that's not something a lot of people are doing, how do you get them to want what you can bring to the table, especially when it's something that they need to sell.
So the question is, I'll repeat the question, we'll get to answer it. So the question is, if you're a DBE firm, smaller DBE firm, and you're working, or there's a larger firm that doesn't have what you do, how do you make that connection?
You were saying even if they were able to do it themselves.
Right, so my company is a small company and it's something that's not, it doesn't exist. I started the company a couple of years ago and a lot of prime contractors can do it themselves, but it makes their prime engineers have to do it. So how do I get those prime contractors to realize that their engineers, project engineers are needed elsewhere and let me take care of what I do?
Sounds like a good situation to be in.
So far, so good. But again, it's getting your name out, like, how do you start that conversation? How do you get those prime contractors to say, you know, you're right, my engineers could be doing something else with your company?
I think you're answering your own question right there. It's a matter of making those connections, getting the word out to industry about your firm, services you provide, about how well you do services. But more importantly, how you're gonna make their life easier. You know, what value do you add to them, or how do you help them complete their projects more efficiently or more cost effective? You know, I know you provide this service, however, I can take that off your plate, make your life easier, and this is what we specialize in. So we will do it maybe even better.
And I think definitely sit in on that last question that she's doing with the fitting yourself.
Yes.
That would be really helpful.
Yep.
Yeah. Any other questions? I thought I saw another thing go on. Okay.
So, that's then, DBE program. Also address like, with project management, maybe like progress schedule, invoicing, stuff like that.
You're just talking about the DBE support services?
That's the mental protege relationship.
Sure.
Mine and the
Yeah, basically the question is, with the DBE program, with WisDOT, whether it's formal mentor protege or informal, or any mentoring you do with larger firms, can they provide more than just technical mentoring, such as business development or accounting, invoicing, things like that? And
just like, developing project schedule for project.
sure. Yeah, there are a lot of tools and resources, and I think most firms are going to be willing to do that, because it's to their advantage, right? If they're bringing you on as a sub-consultant, they want you to be independent and provide value to them, but they also want to partner with you and help you further your business, at least a good mentor, a good senior. So obviously they're going to want to help you in those other areas, and those firms are going to have a lot of resources. They're going to have billing clerks and rather than an owner wearing 5 different hats and trying to do everything themselves. I think the DBE office also provides a lot of that assistance through WisDOT. They can provide some of that mentoring and training. And I'm not sure if you've been through that or have gotten any advice on that from the DBE program itself, or if it comes right from the firms.
Version of the mentor protege. But there's also the coaching, and I believe the mentor protege is project specific. The coaching is general, but I agree.
So mentor protege is relationship. So the formal mentor protege for relationship specific, where the two firms get paired up and it's not project. Relationship exists, and you know, to do the memo of understanding for your mentor protege, you do have to sit down and discuss, and really work out where are the areas that the memo of understanding is going to cover. Business commercial issues, business development, marketing, accounting, any of that can be included in your mentor protege if you and your partner agree to what that what that's gonna look like. And I would say, I think every mentor protege that we've been a part of, whatever, regardless of the role that we were in the mentor protege, has included business, small business. Where we're providing some sort of non-technical support. The support, training to kind of help a small business. That's been our experience. I mean, it really is, it comes down to the relationship. There's nothing to prevent you. Aspects.
So this session, Don,
Yeah, I just want to mention, we don't set up that.
yeah, there you go.
One thing as far as mentoring, mentoring and mentor coaching is you get together with a firm, if you're going to do mentor coaching, and that's typically 2 years, get together and you put together a list of action. Pretty much wide open. You can work with a firm to get whatever you want to learn. And then there's the coaching side of it, which is a much more informal relationship where it's typically there's no memorandum of understanding, but you still put together action items you want to talk about and use it with this kind of. Or you develop a relationship with a firm who you pick to help you out, and then go ahead and get that action item list set up and do your coaching pretty quickly in months. So 2 different types of programs. If you want to talk about either one of them, certainly it's all or any of our office or anybody that you be on.
Yeah, so Don is with OES, Oneida Engineering Solutions, and this firm is one of the DBE support consultants. And they administer the mentor protege program and the coaching program. And if you guys want more information, Benji from DOT is going to be one of the panelists in the next session, and she's going to go do a little presentation on that as well. With that, I think we have to close out. So okay, so again, I'm going to encourage you guys to please fill out the survey. The links will be sent to you by email, so do it there, or the QR code will be up here in a second. Just take tight. And again, the next section is lessons learned from a business over the perspectives. Okay, for that. Thank you all, Alex. Thank you so much for your keep and tell.